Welcome to The Lock Shop with Nielsen and Hustler, powered by Coolbet Canada.
Hello, everybody. Happy Saturday, and welcome to another episode of The Lock Shop, brought to you, as always, by our wonderful partners at Coolbet, Nielsen and Huss. Back with you once again. I am at Hotel Delta in Regina. I almost thought I was in Winnipeg for a second, but I am in Regina. It's a call the Riders game in a few hours. And Huss, of course, setting up shop in the home base in Winnipeg. And nice start to the football weekend with a couple of CFL victories last night for the Lock Shop.
Well, man, and I needed it. I'm still not over the Red Wings choking that 3-1 lead in the third period last night. Would have had a nice winning record for the daily picks last week. Gave up a shorthanded goal in the third period to tie it. Bad giveaway, and the 3-on-3 lost it. So I was a little bit on tilt. However, yes, Ottawa, another valiant effort by the Red Blacks. They don't get the 2 points, but man, they played hard right till the whistle. They lose but cover and are eliminated from the playoffs. And then it was all BC going up against the Edmonton Elks, who continue the incredible stretch of not winning in front of their home fans. So we're going head-to-head on this Toronto-Montreal game. If Calgary can win and cover the 1.5, one of us is going 4-0 this week. So that would be very nice. And hopefully that can sort of carry us into tomorrow's NFL Sunday, which is weird. I mean, there's a couple of, interesting, intriguing games. But, man, with the teams that are on the buys, Dusty, this might be the one. If you need to maybe put a deposit into the emotional bank account of your significant other by maybe being the bigger man and missing a slate of games, early games tomorrow might be a perfect time to up your Q rating with your significant other, because there's not a lot of great action. Chiefs-Niners later on is going to be nice. We'll see what happens. I'm somewhat intrigued about this Pittsburgh-Miami game.
That's because you're a sick bastard, Huss.
Well, I'm here for the Brian Flores narrative going up against his old team, the way he got screwed by the Dolphins. So anyways, hey, it's still NFL Sunday. We're not complaining, and it'll be a much better NFL Sunday regardless of who's playing if we can cash a few tickets.
If you are looking for our best bets of the week, that episode is available on our podcast feed right now. You'll get it. A couple games that we are both riding on together. So just search the Lock Shop on all your podcasting platforms, and you can find that there. We've got our player TD props that we're going to get to, some special stuff for Sunday. We have a few parlays that we're each on individually. And then, of course, we've got our partner parlay, which is plus 400, so 4-1 is what you're getting on it. I think it's a pretty good number. We don't need to dive into Tennessee too much. We were both on it minus 2.5 yesterday, Huss. So I decided to, let's double down on this game. Take Tennessee money line at home against the Colts, a team that they were on the verge of blowing out a few weeks back. Ended up Colts came back around, salvaged that game a little bit, but kind of garbage time essentially. So I'm going to take Tennessee money line. We'll throw that in there. They're a 2-point spread, so we'll just take the money line on this one. Huss, where are you going?
Well, you know what? Originally, we were going to have the Denver Broncos in on this one. And as we were getting this finalized with Patty and the guys over at Coolbet, we found out that Russell Wilson is out for the game tomorrow. So rather than just go blindly into that game, we removed Denver and put in Cincinnati at minus 2.5. Atlanta's 6-0 against the spread. I wouldn't at all surprise me if they do cover, but I think the Bengals do get it done. So as a team, a little safer on that Cincinnati pick. We'll take it to 2.5. And I kind of laid this out yesterday as one of my my best bets. Detroit plus 7.5 in Dallas. Now the line right now is at 6.5. I got it at 7.5 a couple days ago, just at a very, very advantageous moment to get in. I think Detroit coming off the bye. Hopefully D Swift is back. Monroe St. Brown getting some of those weapons back. Listen, we know Dallas has got a great defense, but I do think the early game going up against the Lions and the fact that Dak Prescott is back might take a little while to get in. And hey, even down big, we've seen the Lions show a great aptitude for coming back in the fourth quarter to at least backdoor cover. So we'll take the extra point. We'll get it on the other side of a touchdown. Detroit plus 7.5. And maybe you can touch on why you like the Bengals at minus 2.5, despite the crazy things that Atlanta's done all season long.
I know Atlanta's done some crazy things all season long, but I think Joe Burrow's going to, and I think you kind of think Joe Burrow's going to have himself a day here as well. Now, Mariota's done some very good things. I understand that, but can he keep pace with a Cincinnati team that should be able to throw the ball on these guys? The Atlanta Falcons, pretty decent run defense, not very good at all against the pass, which is bad news when you have to go up against Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, and the whole crew mixing out of the backfield. So I think Cincinnati wins this game. Part of me, if it wasn't for what Atlanta's already done, I'd say rather comfortably. I do feel really good about it at under a field goal at -2.5. So I'm not overly worried about that one. There's bigger questions to be had here if Cincinnati loses at home to Atlanta. I just don't see that happening. I think they probably could win this game by 10. I understand Atlanta's been a covering machine, but they're not going to cover every game all season. They're going to go into a tough spot here against Cincinnati, a Bengals team that actually has an excellent third quarter defense. They really don't allow anything in the third quarter. So Atlanta's going to have a hard enough time grinding anyway, let alone against a defense that starts second halves extremely well. So Cincinnati -2.5, and it gets boosted up by our partners at Coolbet, and you'll be able to find it. It's the only place you'll be able to find it at 4-1. So it's Detroit +7.5, Cincy -2.5, Tennessee money line at +400. Huss, any thoughts on that Cincy-Atlanta matchup?
Well, you know what I mean? Listen, I've been really impressed with what Atlanta's done all season long, and that's why I wouldn't feel that comfortable if we had it at the -6.5, and that's why they weren't my best bets, because they seem to have a knack for running the football and keeping it close, even in games where I thought they've had no business being into it. And the Bengals, much like the Ravens, have been up and down. I mean, you look at that AFC North, Baltimore and Cincinnati tied for first at just 3-3, and Cleveland and Pittsburgh just one game back right now. So this is a big, big game for Cincinnati. And as I said, I mean, the one thing that came through last week big time was that Burrow-Jamar Chase combination playing in New Orleans. That was a massive comeback, and man, they needed that. You can't start 2-4 in that division, even with the games that Baltimore could easily be 5-1 right now. I mean, with the way that they barely lost to the Bills. They had that ridiculous blown lead against the Dolphins. I don't know what to expect of them, but I do think that Cincinnati is progressing more and more towards the team we saw shock the world beating the Chiefs last year. And listen, we got a great number on this one, +400. Left margin of coolbet.com, Coolbet exclusives. Click on that. You'll see the Lock Shop Partner Parlay, Partner Parlay right there. Click on it, get in with us, and let's ride.
All right, what about some other parlays? Interesting week, Huss. You managed to come up with 3. One of them's a 2-gamer, but you got 3 parlays. I've got a couple of parlays. One just a pretty basic money line, and then another one that I moved some things around and took some interesting bets. But lay it out for me, Huss. What do you got on that card there?
Well, first off, I'm just going to say this was tough. Usually I've got a whole bunch of different options. We were just talking about Cincinnati at -6.5. We both like Tennessee at -2. It's now -2.5. Other than that, I couldn't look at there's not a single favorite that I look at this week and say, you know what, I'd feel comfortable laying those points. So I'm kind of looking at a bunch of underdogs. Houston's coming off the bye. This is one that I wanted to get Houston in on one of the tickets, and we'll talk about Dameon Pierce in a little bit. The Raiders they've had a real tough start. They are a big favorite at home, and they've been underwhelming so far this year. And the one thing about Houston, I'm not expecting them to win this game, but they really have hung in tough with a lot of teams. And we talked about the win against Jacksonville a couple weeks ago. They've got a lot of young players, and the more that this season goes on, both with the quarterback, Davis Mills, and Pierce in the background, I think they get a little bit more confidence. So I'm going to on this one parlay, we're going to take a few underdogs. We're going to throw in the Texans +7. We're going to take the Giants to +3.5. Now, we talked about the Giants yesterday in the best bets. We both like New York, considering the points that we're getting. I can still see this absolutely being a 3-point game and potentially being a push if the Giants are on the wrong side of it. So we got that to +3.5. And I'm going to throw the Pittsburgh Steelers on this one. And we didn't talk a lot about this game, and we were still wondering what the quarterback story was with Miami. We do think Tua is going to be back. Kenny Pickett's going to be back, and he's actually looked pretty good so far. And it's a real sort of no-lose situation right now for Pittsburgh going in on the road. The other side of this, though, is let's not forget who's on the sidelines with Mike Tomlin in this game, and that's Brian Flores, who was screwed by the Dolphins. He's suing the league right now. And I'll tell you what, if I was in a back alley in a situation and I could pick any coach in the league to have on my side, Brian Flores might be that guy. And I have a feeling that he is going to be, and I think his guys are going to be up for the challenge of going up against the Miami offense. And let's face it, I don't think anyone knows Tua better than him, who had him last year. So I kind of like the chances of Pittsburgh to keep this one within a touchdown. So we're going to throw Pittsburgh plus 7.5 on that one. So Houston plus 7, Giants plus 3.5, Pittsburgh plus 7.5, paying plus 554. And then I adjusted a couple of other numbers down. And I do like Seattle. Seattle's just been one of the great stories so far. Geno Smith. I mean, I still can't believe it, but it's happening week in and week out. I'm very iffy on the Chargers right now, considering their health situation. So I'm going to take Seattle to plus 4.5 and take the Lions down to plus 4.5 as well. Put those together, and you got a plus 342. So that was just a little two-gamer with an adjusted spread, thinking that both Detroit and Seattle might be able to keep these games really tight. And then I went to some totals. Now, keep in mind, these totals were done before, and this bet was in before Russ was out. Although, well, you can respond to it. I'm not sure how much it really matters, considering how bad the Denver offense has been as of late.
I'm not very nervous, buddy. On my level of nerves on my best bet of the Broncos minus 1.5, technically not really changing right now. I still feel the same way I felt before about it.
Well, just while we're touching on it, that number was basically 1.5, 1. Now that Russell Wilson's out and Brett Rippon's starting, it's the Jets minus 1.5 at minus 109, and the Jets minus 123 on the money line. Broncos plus money, home underdog plus 105. But as far as the pick, I had the total on that one, and I had over 37.5. We kind of thought that this maybe be somewhat of a get-right game for the Broncos. But honestly, I just, to your point, I think Brett Rippon is going to basically take what's in front of him. His one start before, he actually played quite well, did throw a few picks, but also got into the end zone a couple times. And I'll be interested to see what the Jets offense can do with this Broncos defense that actually has been pretty stout and has been keeping them in games. So I got the over 37.5. That was an earlier pick, Jets, Denver. Indy, Tennessee, over 42. And the Chiefs-Niner game to go under 49. I do think the defenses are going to flex, especially if San Francisco can get a few of their players that they're hoping to come back. That'll be game time decisions. So those three totals get you to plus 600. Over in the Chiefs game, over in the Jets, Broncos, and under in the Chiefs game, and then over in the Jets, Denver, and in the Indianapolis, Tennessee.
I usually have one or two of these every weekend, 3 or 4 game money lines that, they're not super safe, but I think they can hit. And I've already laid out my case for Cincinnati. I'd be stunned if the Bengals lose to the Falcons. And now I will say I've been stunned like 3 times every weekend the entire season. So maybe it does happen. We're already on Tennessee everywhere else. So I'm going to throw them in this money line as well. And then the other 2 games, I feel like these 2 teams, they're favorites and they're in games that they got to have. Like Green Bay cannot go into Washington and lose after dropping games to the Jets and Giants. Like imagine Aaron Rodgers trying to justify his team right now after losing to the Commanders, the Jets, and the Giants. And I know the Jets are 4-2 and the Giants are 5-1. I get it. They're still the Jets, the Giants, and the Commanders. I don't see, and I get the intrigue of taking the Commanders plus the points. I totally understand that, especially with it sitting at 4.5. But I think Green Bay finished this game off, so I got them on the money line. And, I also don't hate your Texans plus 7 pick. This is the reason I'm putting a lot of these teams on money line as opposed to taking some of these numbers that are too much to give right now. So I'm going to take Vegas. They got to have it. With the schedule that they've had so far and the losses that they've taken, you can't lose at home to Houston. You just can't do it. So I'm on Vegas, Tennessee, Green Bay, Cincinnati, just money line for all of them. And it's plus 387. And then this other game, this was a fun one to put together. I like this. I moved Detroit down to 12.5. You like them at 7.5. Threw them on a 4-gamer at 12.5. I did go Chargers money line. I think kind of back in what we're going to talk about with Eckler. I think that's going to be a high-scoring game, and I'll take the Chargers in that running gun game. but it should be a really good game. I also, once again, not comfortable with taking the Chargers as one of my best bets because the number's 5. I'd rather take a money line. I got KC and San Fran. I bumped it up to 52.5, took the under. I like that. And then I did go on the Titans again at the half and at the end of the game. So they had to be leading at halftime and then win the game. And I think it's like plus 180 or something like that. And I like that bet a lot. The Colts are brutal in the first half, and the Titans are one of the best first half teams in the league. So I decided I was like, what else can I get in here? And I don't think we've done a leading at half, end of game bet just yet. So I decided to throw it in. I'll tell you, if Tennessee loses this week, I'm screwed. I'll just say that. So fingers crossed that Tennessee gets the job done, buddy.
Yeah, we got a lot of eggs in that Tennessee basket, but I can tell you, I was just listening. I think Peter Schrager dropped this earlier. Indianapolis has the worst DVOA number ever for a team with a winning record after 6 weeks in the National Football League. And as I said, they had no business winning that Denver game. I didn't see a lot of the Jacksonville game last week, but I think Jacksonville's showing some real issues on the defensive side of the football. So yeah, let's get Tennessee to get that win. Indy probably already has a couple extra wins that they don't deserve. This can be a bit of a regression to the mean this week. And Mike Vrabel's never lost after the bye too. So I feel good about the Titans.
Yeah, me too. I mean, against the spread after a bye, they've covered by 19 points or more. So they've been really good. And they get a Colts team that at some point Matt Ryan's arm's just going to straight up fall off. All right, let's get into our player props toss. I have to say, Eckler at 18-1 for the most rush yards against Seattle's defense is awfully sexy. There's like 10 running backs who have better odds than him this week.
It was that was a juicy number. And listen, I thought Eckler was awesome last week. And we're seeing him. It was really quiet the first couple of weeks. They're using him, and especially now with Keenan Allen being hurt. Now I think he's going to come back. I think that almost just gives them more of an opportunity to pound the rock to Austin Eckler. And listen, if they're up in the game as well, are they going to need to air it out? Or are they going to be keeping it on the ground and keeping the clock running? I think there's a whole bunch of situational things that could conspire for a big game for Austin Eckler. But the other side of it is that, you saw last week, even with Lindley out, he did a great job of moving the football on the ground. But one thing that's a little iffy, and this is probably why it is plus 1,800, Eckler, as productive as he is, does quite a bit of it receiving. Yeah. But we'll make this bet and we'll hope that they start getting it on the ground and continue to go that way. So these are in the Sunday specials, by the way. This is one of my new favorite things to play. I don't know, maybe it was hitting the Josh Allen the first week, but some pretty big numbers. This is for all running backs on Sunday. Eckler to have the most rushing yards on Sunday, plus 1,800. And then the other one, I couldn't help but throw Joey Burrow in there as well. I mean, we talked a little bit about the situation they're in, the team that they're playing. Atlanta at times has been like they sure gave Jimmy G a hard time last week. I kind of don't think that will be the case, but they have been relatively good on the run. So if that's the case, I think it's going to be a lot of Joe Burrow, a lot of Jamar Chase, a lot of Tyler Boyd. So I put a little sprinkle on Burrow at plus 700 to have the most passing yards in the weekend. And then I got two TD props. Had to get off the Dameon Pierce train last week because they were on the bye. But we are now perfect. Every time we picked him, he's got a touchdown. Now, Unfortunately, it's gone from plus 130 to plus 125 to plus 120, now to plus 103. But that's what happens when you hit every week. So we'll take the rookie running back from the Texans to get into the end zone against the Raiders at plus 103. And then I think I sort of tipped this one off yesterday. I like Taylor Heineke. I don't think the Commanders are worse off with him in than they are with Carson Wentz. And I think like we saw the last time he got in, I think he'll have something to prove. And I know that Terry McLaurin's happy to see him back because they actually had quite a bit of good chemistry. So let's get Scary Terry in the end zone to help me cover the number and the total and get a plus 190 winner. So Terry McLaurin, resurgence game with Heineke at QB and Dameon Pierce, who has been perfect every time we've laid a touchdown prop on him so far this year.
Well, I've got one of Terry McLaurin's teammates in there. Maybe I should be on the Commanders. You've got the McLaurin TD. I'm going to take Brian Robinson. You can run the ball against the Green Bay Packers. And, Brian Robinson has his first touchdown under his belt. I don't think he's getting, or I think we're getting much better value at plus 160 than we should for it. Like, you go look at most starting running backs, it's a minus number. This guy had almost 20 touches last week, plus 160 for a touchdown for Brian Robinson. If they get near the goal line, Antonio Gibson ain't coming in. I mean, that's Robinson's job to punch home. So I'm going to take Robinson at plus 160. Amon-Ra St. Brown, obviously prior to his injury, 3 touchdowns in 2 games. They worked him back in a little bit last week. But we know Jared Goff absolutely loves him. Coming off a bye here, I'm going to go with Amon-Ra St. Brown to find the end zone at plus 130 against the Dallas Cowboys. And then I said it yesterday, the Bucs at minus 13 are one of my best bets. I think it's a blowout. And when it's a blowout for the Bucs, it usually involves Mike Evans in the end zone. I thought this number would probably be closer to minus 135. It's sitting at minus 108 right now. So I said, you know what? It's not too chalky, so I'm going to go Mike Evans at minus 108. If you like Godwin instead, which I considered, it's plus 135, so some more value there, but I just think it's more likely that Evans ends up in the end zone in that game. So Brian Robertson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Mike Evans for my touchdown scores on Sunday. That should be an interesting day. Like you said, Huss, if you have other things to do, might not be the worst day to do it, but...
Yeah. I'm just looking to see if there's a number on Evans to get in the end zone twice, because this just seems like, and I know you laid it out, this has to be the get-right game for Tampa. Carolina's thrown up the white towel, as it were, on the season. Mike Evans 5-1 for the first touchdown scorer as well. I don't mind that. He's often the catalyst early on from Tom Brady when they get into it. So maybe we'll throw a little sprinkle down on that. But I have a feeling we're going to see, well, as I said, I'm not feeling a lot of big covers right now. I'm leaning on underdogs. We've moved a few lines, trying to get creative with a couple of these parlays. And I do like the Lock Shop Partner Parlay. If you're just jumping on, get to the Cool Bet exclusives. We got the Lions plus 7.5, Bengals minus 2.5, and the Titans money line. Pretty good, plus 400 number, considering we've adjusted a couple of those bets.
There you go. It's all done. Tomorrow morning, you'll see a tweet coming out from us laying out all the episodes we got. We got the fantasy football stuff for you if you're setting your lineups tomorrow. We've got our best bets, obviously, and now we got Props and Parlay Saturday. Oh, Huss, I forgot to tell you, I traded Travis Kelce in one of my keeper leagues in fantasy. I was 4-2, but there's a guy who's got a juggernaut. He's 6-0, Chase, Burrow, Derrick Henry, Breece Hall, like just a ridiculous team. I'm like, look, I'm not going to beat this guy. I know I'm not going to beat this guy. So I traded him, Travis Kelce, and I got, and it's a 5-keeper league. I got Brian Robinson, which whatever, we'll see how it pans out. I got Kyle Pitts in an ultimate buy low situation. I got Deshaun Watson, and I need a quarterback because right now I'm running Goff and Daniel Jones. And then I got a first-round pick, 2 second-round picks, and a third-round pick. So I got 4 picks, Kyle Pitts, Brian Robinson Jr., and Deshaun Watson, who will start for me in the second half of the season, essentially, or late in the season. So it was tough to give up Kelce. He's helped me win that league twice, but I just didn't have it this year. I was like, you know what? Pitts is going to, once they get a quarterback that stays in the pocket and throws the ball, I think Pitts will still be what people expect him to be over the next few years. So I said, screw it. I'm gonna mail it in and take these assets.
Well, it's funny you say that because I made a bit of a blockbuster deal that will shock some people as well. I traded in a similar keeper league. I traded Justin Jefferson and Patrick Mahomes.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
I did. I got an offer that I honestly just could not refuse. I was at 3-3. This guy's at like 5-1. Very similar situation. Yeah. And because of the nature of this league and a number of teams historically kind of deciding whether they're in it or out and really stockpiling picks, I haven't done that. And I've sort of just been in the mushy middle. And I got an offer that I couldn't refuse. It was Kyler Murray. It was Garrett Wilson, 2 firsts, 2 twos, and a third. Mostly all the 2 first and seconds all in next year's draft for Mahomes, and Jefferson, and then like, a 12th rounder, a 13th rounder, a couple things to fill it in. So it was very difficult to do. Oh, and the other thing is I wasn't able to keep those guys next year. So that was
there was a rental situation for you essentially. So
yeah. I mean, listen, I could have run through it and seen if I could make it happen, but it just didn't seem that case. And that is one thing about fantasy. Sometimes it's really tough to accept where you are and move on from your favorite players. But luckily, I'm in enough leagues that I've got those guys on better teams in other leagues. And I already can't wait for the big draft next year because I'm going to have like 3 of the first 7 picks.
Buddy, I've already started Googling 2023 fantasy football dynasty mock drafts just to see what I'm looking at. So that's a great time of year. I can't wait. I never have picks in this league. Now I've got like 9 in the first 3 rounds, which is pretty exciting. All right, there you go. That's going to do it for another week with the Lock Shop. Enjoy the football yesterday. We'll be back on Monday, breaking down Sunday and giving you some picks for Monday Night Football. Bears involved again, but they get the Patriots. Could be an interesting football game. Huss, enjoy the rest of your weekend, buddy. We'll talk to you Monday.
You too. Have a good call this afternoon.